Hello everybody. Patch preview 26.6. Let's talk about it. This is being recorded off stream, in case you were wondering why you haven't seen this on stream. I forgot to talk about it today on stream. Figured I might as well do a recording and talk about it real fast. I just ended my stream, played the matches, EMEA Masters matches, whatever. And then tomorrow I'll be reacting to the numbers that are gonna come out, which is basically the more important one because this patch seems to be kinda small. So, overall, the game is looking pretty healthy in terms of balance and broad satisfaction. Riot says this a lot. If you watch my patch previews, they say this so often. They're always positive. They don't really admit when it's their fault or where they screw up something really usually. So this is kind of like nothing burger. You can just ignore this. Over the coming patches, we're going to be looking at some of the champs that have felt a bit unloved and worse for wear, and would love to hear your suggestions. Okay, this is really nice to hear. I'm excited, right? Because it's over the coming patches. Okay, there are some champions that come to my mind that really haven't gotten love in a while. And for example, one of them is Lissandra, which I've said a lot of times, and she's getting above this patch. Okay. Campak's Chainsword has been one of the weaker Grievous items for a while. While we don't want Grievous items to become too commonplace, as it subtly degrades champion kits when too common, it still is a bit too weak for even that purpose. I really like what he's saying here. Oblivion Orb is the best Grievous Wounds item, Bramble-wise being second best, although that one has a lot of counterplay because you don't have to hit the opponent on a lot of champions and then the anti-heal isn't really there, right? Campak's Chainsword is a horrible item. You don't ever see anyone build this. I think it should be buffed. It shouldn't be buffed enough to the point where people just buy it by default, which is what he's talking about here. Which is why I think like Morello is in a good place as an item because it's very situational. I like this. The support item minion penalty has been a pain point for support users, and with roll quests, the risk of funneling, why it was there in the first place, has been reduced pretty significantly. We're removing that drawback. Okay, cool. Let's see what happens. Shen. Shen jungle has really started to take off recently, which is really awesome to see. Thank you, Expeto. Wow. Expeto really had like a massive influence over Shen. Really impressive what he's doing. How he rolls up the jungle, finds like fucking new ways to kite jungle camps and pet, and his site Coachless I think is an awesome product. I use it a lot. I really recommend it. I think it's way better than like low analytics and stuff, and I'm not even trying to like promote it here or stuff because I'm not sponsored, but I'm just saying like I really think he's doing an awesome job. I'm a big fan of Expeto, and yeah, Shen influence, he kinda is the one that started this. In general, I think the main problem of Season 16 is Riot is kind of slow at adjusting items that are too strong. I think Dusk and Dawn is completely out of place. I am just shocked it gets no nerfed. I think Umbra-Glaive is probably also a bit out of place. I think Protoplasm Harness with the new buffs that Riot did a couple of patches ago, I think people are slowly going to start picking it up. Shen Jungle got indirectly buffed via items like Protoplasm Harness. I do not think the champion would be good in jungle. Otherwise, it hasn't been jungle nearly as good in a long time, and it hasn't really received any buff besides items being better and stuff like that. So, okay, sure. Zahien, we're really happy to see Zahien picking up a sizable audience in both top and jungle, but now that regular players in addition to experienced players are starting to demonstrate the top end of mastery performance, he's looking too strong across the board. He is very high win rate, so this does make sense. He's high win rate in jungle and top. I do think that Zahien top is way healthier for the game than Zahien jungle, but that I think is obvious for vast majority of champions. They're just way less healthy in jungle than they are in top lane, especially champions that aren't designed to be junglers in the first place, which Zahien is more of a top lane champion. I think overall, Zahien, I don't have a big problem. He's just like a stat checking champion. He's kind of like a more stat checking Darius in a way, where if you can kite him and you don't let him stack the passive and stuff, then there's a lot of counterplay. But against some champions, against some team comps, he just runs you over. He has too much move speed. He stacks his passive and is unkillable. Also, if you look at low analytics, this is really important. Let me actually pull it up really fast. So what's really important about Zahien, which a lot of maybe you guys don't know, is if you look at his graph, win rate game versus game length, his graph just scales up really hard over time. And I'm looking at jungle here, and it's going to be the same for top lane. This means that Zahien is a mega scaling champion, by the way. Mega scaling champion. So I'm kind of leaning, I hope it's a scaling nerf. Because this champion is just like brutal late game. Like his passive also in late game can just give him like, I don't know, 60% health, 70% health in a team fight. You basically have to kill a very tanky bruiser twice in a fight. It's ridiculous. Currently, we think his jungle is a bit stronger than top, so nerfs are mostly focused there. Okay, I should have read this part before I started speaking. I am 100% on board here with Riot. I think the champ has less weaknesses in jungle, just like a lot of other champions do, simply because in jungle you skip laning phase, right? Like you're laning against a ranged champion in top lane, you're suffering. In jungle, you don't have to do that. You skip automatically to level 4 just by full clearing. He's a really fast full clearer. And then he also has terrain control in jungle and super fast clear. So yeah, just clear spit nerf is gonna do wonders here. Skarner top focus. Skarner has been out of the spotlight for a while, and since we tapped down a few things that were causing him to be overbearing in top, W max and E point blank kidnaps, we think he can get a bit more power here. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. Skarner is borderline OP right now in jungle. The problem is nobody plays Skarner. So I see Riot's point of view. They need to buff Skarner just to put him on the map again and then fucking nerf him. I think the champion will be OP. It doesn't matter how much they buff him. This champion is borderline OP. Just look at statistically. His win rate is really high. Doesn't matter if the sample size is a bit on the lower end because the champ is unpopular. When Skarner has these high amounts of win rate as he does currently, he was always very overpowered in the past with same amounts of win rates. This champion is OP. Jungle Olaf has fallen a little bit behind the pack. We're adding some power back. Okay, it's a classic Riot thing. They are adding a lot of champions to jungle, right? A lot of top laners. Okay, so let's talk about it really fast. Azir buff makes total sense. He's the lowest win rate champ in the game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. They said they're gonna buff him after first stand. This is the patch after first stand. Pros are not gonna play on this patch besides me and me and Masters at some point. So yeah, I'm assuming they're gonna give him a lot of damage. I think they're gonna buff W AP ratio and they're not gonna give him the health back that he lost. So overall, I think the champ is gonna do more damage but be less squishy is my prediction on how they're gonna do it. Cassiopeia. So a lot of debate here in high elo. Why is Cassiopeia getting buffed? Now, I do think Cassiopeia as a champion is very sharp, okay? And what I mean by that is you have the right team comp, the right matchup for top lane. Yeah, it's very oppressive to lane against, right? You can't breathe. And then you have the other side of the coin where she plays against range and she can't do anything. She's fucking useless, right? So she's very sharp as a champion in that sense. Does the champion need a buff? I think she's very garbage, personally. Just like statistically speaking, her win rate is very bad if you compare it to even last season where she had way higher win rates than this. And then overall, I think as much as she has more mana now, her AP ratios are horrible. I think scaling wise, her early game is good, but scaling wise, she's garbage. The new passive that she has is basically makes her, I think, that stronger early game and a lot weaker mid to late game, where that passive, the old passive that she had with no boots gave her a lot of basically free gold in the kit. Yeah, I think the champion is garbage late game. I think that's where the focus point should be. AP ratios up, please. Okay, Lissandra, another champ that I've been saying should get a buff, God knows how long. I get that Riot doesn't want to buff her because she's type of like an anti-carry champion that adds a lot of frustration in gameplay and stuff. But yeah, what does Lissandra need, in my opinion? I think I feel like she's really weak, so I don't even know what direction to go with her. 5 Moon Spit would be awesome, because a champion with such short ranges on kit should not be playing with 325 MS. If she was released in 2026, like a newly released champion, she would never have this low base MS. Never in a million world. So 5 MS would be good. I think a Veigar type of buff would be good, where they increase the range on Q and W, similar to how Veigar got 50 range on W and 100 range on Q. I think that type of buff would be awesome for the champion. And if we're not going that direction, then we just need fucking more damage and more tankiness, because that champ's getting one-shot by everything. I also think the item system is not in a good place for her. I think first item is fine. Second and third item are complete garbage for Lissandra. Not sure how to fix that. Olaf, jungle, okay. Skarner, yeah. The champ's gonna be OP. And then Chindamer, I think Chindamer is insanely weak. I don't think his playstyle currently is very healthy, because he goes Halo Blades, which is a very unhealthy keystone in my opinion. And then he goes like Prof and Hydra, and he does like a lot of... he's just way more... He plays way more like an assassin, more so than a bruiser currently, or like a fighter, which I think is very unhealthy for the champion. I think Riot should shift that somehow, if they care. But yeah, champ needs a rework, and yeah, I think he's weak. Okay, Ahri. Yeah, Ahri, since Azir, Talia, Orianna, all these like top tier mids and high elo, they all got nerfed. Ahri is basically the highest pre-crit mid laner in the game with the highest amount of win rate. She's like 52 to 53% win rate. She's very OP. This champ needs a nerf. They should definitely undo the W nerf that they did couple of patches ago. That cooldown should never be up. Just undo that nerf. It's minus 1% win rate roughly, and we're good. Pyke. So interesting. Not sure why Pyke is getting nerfed exactly. Probably because ban rate is high, I would assume. Win rate is like okay for the champ. It's always like okay-ish in high elo, 50%, and then a little bit lower in low elo. I think it's just probably ban rate being high. Maybe it's like a Korea China thing. Shen jungle, okay, and then Zahien. Okay, I like the Zahien nerf. I think the champ needs it. Okay, champion adjustment Kartus. Not really sure what Riot is cooking here. And then Campac Chainsword. Okay, Sunfire Aegis and support item penalty. Okay, so lastly, I'll talk about Sunfire. I've seen some discussion that Sunfire is weak item. Here's my opinion. Looking at some stats, the item does not seem to be weak. A lot of people are saying that the Emmer Sunfire, which is Hollow Radiance, is always better and just feels better. I think it feels better. I don't think it's actually always better. I was looking at like stats on champions. Sunfire actually does fine as an item statistically. The problem with Sunfire, in my opinion, is that the item is mega unsatisfying to use. I think the build path is complete garbage, and the burn overall just is mega unsatisfying in current league because it just doesn't hit the same as old league where you were able to stand on people for a very long amount of time. So I wonder if Sunfire is just, I don't know. I don't know how to make the item. I think maybe the easiest way to make the item more satisfying is to make it just like Hollow Radiance where the minions explode on the burn. I think that would make it slightly more satisfying. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I just wonder if the concept of burning somebody is like outdated in modern League of Legends. I don't know. Anyway, this is the patch, super small. Riot usually does like light patches after when an international happens. So I'm hoping 26.7 is going to be bigger, and I'm mostly excited to see what the Lissandra, I guess, and maybe Cassio buffs are going to be. All right, we'll see about the full numbers tomorrow.